Hello, everybody, and I hope you're all sitting comfortably. That's probably a wrong introduction to this webinar and also showing my age a bit. But anyway, moving swiftly on. I thought the best way to select some issues to run through for you was to speak to the head of our support team and get from him a list of frequently asked questions by our users. And in the time that I've got allowed for this short session, to expand on 3, maybe 4 of those and provide you with a bit of insight as to how to deal with them. And this indeed is what I've done. So my first tip, which will flash onto the screen any minute now, is to what I've described as check and generate. Within our software, we have a utility which is called check and generate IXBRL files. And my suggestion is that once you've drafted a set of accounts, you run this utility. It will look for various errors or anomalies that are associated with the accounts and will report back on these, and they're either described as errors or warnings. Errors can be as basic as advising you that your trial balance does not balance, or that names of signatories or dates are missing. Of course, when you use the integration with FreeAgent, the chance of the former happening, i.e. an unbalanced trial balance, are minimal. But it's not uncommon for names and dates to be missed because this is information that doesn't come out of the accounting package per se. Using our utility, you need to know that errors have to be resolved because you just can't proceed to integrate the file with our corporation tax module or even submit the accounts to Companies House if there are errors existing. So they have to be resolved. Warnings don't need to be resolved in that way. So just to give you a sort of idea of what I'm talking about, for my next tip, I'm going to cover how to approach dealing with one very common issue that often arises on checking and generating. So the check and generate utility will, as I say, produce a little report. And sometimes these can be quite alarming, a whole list of things that you think, oh my goodness, what have I done wrong here? But actually, if you start by dealing with issues identified as warnings, actually, at the bottom of the report and work your way up, it'll often be the case that clearing the warnings will result in the actual errors being resolved. So let's talk about a classic warning and error combination that quite often occurs. So, for example, in the prior year fixed assets trial balance, there were, say, motor vehicles with a cost brought forward of 25,000 and additions to motor vehicles in the prior year at a cost of 120,000. I'm guessing the owner must have bought himself a Bentley or something. Anyway, whereas, of course, the current year TB, at least for accounts production purposes, needs to report motor vehicles at a cost brought forward of 145,000. Quite often, the actual current year TB replicates the cost brought forward of 25 and additions of 120 without combining the two into a new cost brought forward. If this issue is not dealt with, there'll be first an error reported telling you that the motor vehicle cost brought forward in the current year does not equal the motor vehicle cost carried forward from the prior year. But there will also be a consequential error this time that states that there is a disagreement between net assets reported last year and those reported this year. Dealing first with the warning will clear both the warning and the error. According to Josh, our head of support, this is an issue that does happen more often than not. And it's going to arise with all those sorts of balance sheet accounts that have movements in the year, such as a profit and loss account brought forward, deferred tax brought forward, and of course on any of the fixed asset accounts that I've just run through. And they could be tangible fixed assets or intangible fixed assets. My third tip is watch our training and demonstration videos, because these can be truly invaluable in guiding you through many of the processes. Whilst we believe that our software is intuitive to use and so on, you can do with a bit of extra help. And it's these videos and demonstrations that can provide that. As an example, our standard layout for the extended trial balance and the detailed profit and loss account, actually in each of our accounts production templates, so that's say FRS 105, 102, 1A and so on, only caters for one line of revenue, which is the company's total turnover. However, frequently clients like to see in their detailed P&L separate lines for the different revenue streams. For example, simplistically, sales north, sales south, sales east and west, all combining up to one turnover figure for the year. This would, in order to achieve this, you're going to have to change the ETB and the detailed P&L. And we have a very helpful video entitled, surprisingly enough, Adding Lines to the Detailed P&L, which explains in good detail how this is done and is worth following step by step to avoid errors. As I've mentioned already, there are videos, guides on many other useful topics. Rounding up with my fourth and final tip in the context of producing a set of accounts using our accounts production module: delete anything at your peril. Don't try and delete notes or lines in the extended trial balance or on any of the primary statements. The risk here, if you do this, is that the integrity of the accounts production module is disturbed and an imbalance will be introduced, and you'll get many more errors on your check and generate than you can probably deal with. Also, if you do delete something that doesn't necessarily tip out the balance, there is a risk that you might be deleting something that's carrying a mandatory IXBRL tag. These are the tags that are required when we're submitting accounts to Companies House and to HMRC. But there's good news, because generally you can leave lines in the ETB unpopulated with figures, and these, together with the lines in notes or in the primary statements, will be automatically hidden when the collapse empty data icon is clicked. So you don't actually have to delete anything, because typically if it's not needed, the program will do that for you. Funnily enough, going back to my first tip, check and generate, when you click that, the collapsed empty data routine is actually part of the whole process. So it's kind of done for you automatically anyway. Thank you for listening to my top tips. If you have any questions or would like to organise a demonstration of our software, please speak to the new business team. To view our software in action, check out the other videos on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.